I think one of the issues that I dealt with being a pastor's kid is oftentimes, children that are also PKs grow up without having a personal relationship with God. They know God through their parents' relationship, and sometimes there's a disconnect.
Welcome back to the What Went Wrong podcast, where we tell the untold stories of bouncing back from failure. I am Tabitha Thurl, your host, and today I have a very special guest, Dana, and I am so excited to share his story with you guys. But Dana, you are a podcast host for Live Talk Radio, but I know you have a lot more successes under your belt, so I don't want to overshine you. So here we go. Tell us a little bit about where you are today, Dana.
Sure, absolutely. And first of all, I want to just say thank you for this opportunity. You're so awesome. You're such a beacon of light, and I really appreciate you having me on the show. The number one thing that I can say first and foremost is that I am a survivor. I am a survivor. I dealt with 15 years addiction, a meth addiction. And this was about 18 years ago now. But, when people want to know who I am, I tell them, first of all, that I'm a survivor. So now what am I doing? I am the host of a podcast titled Life Talk Radio, where we explore the secrets of leadership, personal development, and biblical principles. And I'm also a motivational speaker, keynote speaker. I'm a spiritual mentor, and I'm on this journey, Tabitha, to help people find their path, right? Find their path, because it's so easy to get lost in life. And, with my personal journey of dealing with, my addiction and dealing with the darkest times of my life, I've been able to regain a new perspective, right? And so I love the fact that I can say that I'm a survivor. And I'm also an associate pastor. I'm in ministry. I'm a business owner. I'm a fitness enthusiast. I'm an aspiring author. You name it. I've probably done a little bit of it.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I love it. And congratulations on your
Thank you.
sobriety and all of your success. And we all give you kudos. But we all know you didn't start there, right?
Right.
And we all know, especially with that beginning where, you are a survivor of
Yeah.
addiction, that
Yeah.
it wasn't all sunshine and roses. And so our
Yeah.
audience really wants to know what went wrong.
That's a great question. What went wrong? And I kind of want to preface my answer by
Yeah.
saying, I grew up in this very strong Christian home.
Yes.
I'm 7 of 8 children. I'm number 7. My
Wow.
mother was a single mother, doing the best that she could for us. We never lacked for anything,
Yeah.
but we always had these very strong Christian ethics and Christian values. My mom was a pastor. My mom's mom was a pastor. My mom's mom was a pastor. Uh,
Wow. I love the
yes,
women in that. Like, I love it.
I
I
know the
love
women
that.
coming strong.
Yes, I love that. That's awesome.
But and I'm really grateful for that. I grew up without my father. I did know my father. I met him when I was 10 years old and tried to develop a relationship with him. But I lacked that fatherly leadership in my life. And I
Mhm.
had these very strong women in my life and in my family. I have 5 older brothers, and so we were always very involved in like kingdom work.
Yeah.
And I can remember that was my life. I grew up having these experience with angelic beings. I had an experience with God when I was 9 years old that really changed the trajectory of my life. And
That's
so
awesome.
when you look at my story, and where what I walk through, it's so polar opposite of my upbringing. Because again,
Right.
everything that we knew was God based. It was Christian based. All my friends, church, everything was based on God. And I think one of the issues that I dealt with being a pastor's kid is oftentimes, children that are also PKs grow up without having a personal relationship with God.
Yeah.
They know God through their parents' relationship, and
Right.
sometimes there's a disconnect, and you see them. And I tell you, my heart just it goes out to these youth that are between the ages of 15 and 18 years old, because a lot of them that have were raised under the pew like I was, they
Right.
go, and please forgive the term, but they go buck wild, because
Yeah.
that's all they've known is church, and they want to experience life. And so I can look back, although I'm very grateful of my upbringing, we really had no healthy balance. And, and so it happened to me, in high school, I started, coming into myself. I tell people I was a little above average when it comes to looks.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the pride in me, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Right. Right. We all have it. We all
you
have
know,
it. Right.
we all have it. But yeah, and I started getting attention from girls. I started getting invited to go and hang out at places that I didn't have any idea what it was about. And so as I started, veering my attention from this church kid to
Right.
hanging out with people who seemed cool. They were driving cars, and they were, dressing really cool, and
Yeah.
hanging out. They were the popular kids, and I started hanging out with those kids, and
Yeah.
it led me down a path, Tabitha, that was so dark and lasted so long. And I don't know how. Well, I do know how. It was the grace of God that brought me out of it. But I started, smoking marijuana, which led to other things. I hope this is okay. This is my story.
Oh yeah. No. Yep. Yes.
you
Please
know,
go there. Yeah. Go there for sure.
so
And
yes.
how old were you at this time?
You know what? To be honest with you, I can remember my very first interaction with marijuana, believe it or not, was at the age of 5. 5 years old.
Okay.
One of my older siblings had a family friend, and 5 and 6 is when we really first started. My mom started pastoring. But
Okay.
again, I'm a kid. I'm a kid. I don't really know anything,
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and
Right.
one of my older siblings had a friend who, got me high when I was 5 years old. It was an isolated experience, but that opened a door,
Right.
for me for later in life. And through that experience of being 5 years old, I thought, man, I just experienced, what a grown up does, and so it
Right.
made me
I'm
feel
cool. I'm
it
older.
was
Like it's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. And although I did not, follow that path of, I was again a church kid, church boy. That again, that door opened for me. So I can
Yeah.
say it was towards my senior year, when I started, delving in marijuana. After high school, I moved down to Southern California, met some other friends who were doing shrooms and things of that nature. And
Yeah.
again, I just, I was trying to figure out who I was. I was trying to
Right.
figure out life, apart
Right.
from church and God. And so those gateway drugs led me to try meth, and I did. And I started delving into that. And then I had a period of sobriety where I was working for a very large .com company in the Bay Area. I was a district area manager for a very large company, doing very well, very successful. But I had some unresolved issues, just from my upbringing, and from those experiences that I had with drugs. And again, I just met with the wrong people, and so I started smoking meth, and that led me down a 15-year path of addiction to drugs, addiction to pornography, and it was just a very dark, dark time of my life.
When you say that there was a time when you were sober and you worked for this company, had you
Mm.
tried meth before or was the
You
meth
know,
after?
So I had tried many other drugs. I had tried cocaine. I had
Right.
tried all these other drugs. Meth was not until after.
Because
It
meth
was a
is like
later.
one of the most addictive drugs. Like it is like
It
the
really
hardest.
is.
The statistics, I should have looked this up before. And the only reason why I know this is because I did take a drug and alcohol class in
Yeah,
college. And I remember that was one thing that stood out to me was how addictive meth
yeah,
was and how easy it was to get. It was like the easiest drug to get. And it was the
yep,
most addictive. Like the percentage of
yep,
people that actually are
yep,
survivors of, like you said, survivors of that
yep,
is like so low. I mean, the
Yeah.
percentages were crazy. And a lot of women at that time, because that would have been, I'm going to date myself here, but that was in like the early 2000s, women were taking it as a way to lose weight.
Yeah.
Like they were
Yeah.
a lot of just like middle upper class women were doing meth because they wanted to be skinny, and then they'd get so addicted to this
Yep.
drug, then
Yep.
it showed the before and afters, and I was like, you can't be skinny enough. I mean, like it ain't worth it, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and I say that because some people on here, you hear the term, you hear drugs, you hear marijuana, cocaine, meth. Like nowadays, it's almost just like, it just rolls off. It's kind of like seeing violence on TV. Like it doesn't, you can't, but I want the audience to know the severity of what you went through, because when
Absolutely.
you were successful in a
Hmm.
business, and this is,
Hmm.
and I know this because I had a sister who was an addict. And I don't even like to necessarily label it, but like alcohol was her choice. And
Right.
um, it's very all or nothing personality. So it's
For
like
sure.
when you are successful and you have that high of success, like you're accomplishing a lot.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
there something that happened in your work life that maybe went down a little bit to where you were trying to, have the high, and that's what kind of drew you back into drugs? Or was it just that you were around the like wrong people, or was there something in that time frame that led to it? Because if you were sober and you were accomplishing things, um
Yeah.
normally that is the high enough, and then is there a time in there that like it kind of something happens and then that's what triggered the meth?
Sure, for sure. Yeah, I was on a fast track with my company for upper management and VP. I mean, we were a multi-billion-dollar company. This is when the dot-com industry first started, and I think I allowed the success of my career um, to 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 change my mentality that I have everything. It's okay. I can handle this. I'm
Oh,
doing a
okay,
great
yeah.
job. I deserve to have fun. And, I think it was my success that led me down this road
Like
because,
I'll be
if
fine, it's good, everything's good, nothing, I
right,
can
right.
handle
Other,
this.
yeah, other successful people are doing it. This is cool. This is maybe once in a weekend, maybe once a month, and it spiraled out of control, and I literally lost my job, lost my home, lost my relationship. My fiance, she, we just it just didn't. I lost everything because I started using so often, and it spiraled out of control. And so it lasted for 15 years. And when I look back, man, I've wasted so much of my life. And I spent literally, and I'm not proud of this. In fact, it's one of the most shameful things, but I literally spent 15 years in a dark room smoking meth and hiding from life, but I can tell you this, that the experience that I had, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, the top of the show, that I had this experience with God, and I can tell you what it was. When I was 9 years old, um, I wanted the Holy Spirit so badly. God and I always had this exchange, even when I was a young kid. And looking back now, I can see why God had this relationship with me, because He knew what I would walk through, and He knew the ministry that He had and purpose for me now to
Yes.
give back to people, right? But He had to walk me through this very dangerous, detrimental, dark season of my life. And praise God, I'm a survivor. But I remember when I was 9 years old, I was on my knees praying, and I had a vision of Jesus Christ. He walked up on me, and I was on my knees with my hands up in the air, and He laid His hand on my head, Tabitha. I couldn't see His face, but from the shoulders down, I could see, literally, like I can see you. I saw
Yeah.
Him, and He laid His hand on my head at 9 years old, and He said to me, "This is a chosen child. This is a
Mhm.
chosen child." And He was repeating that to me over and over and over. And the impact that it had on my DNA, on my soul, on my spirit,
Yeah.
it etched. It was like a branding almost.
Uh-huh.
And
Yep.
so I bring that back forward, I remember in my darkest moments of addiction, I would tell God, you said that I was chosen. How am I dealing with this? How am I here? I'm never going to get out of this. But I would have that glimmer of hope that you said, God, that I was a chosen child. And what helped me come out of it was, in my childhood, all the things that I experienced and all of the questions that I had and the shelter that I had, all those negative experiences that seemed negative back then became a foothold for me.
Mm,
Right? There's a scripture in the Bible, and I think it's in the book of Proverbs that said, "You train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart." Right?
yep. Yep.
So I began to remember those experiences that I had with God, and begin to remember the promises that God had spoken over my life. I remember what I had accomplished on my job, and those things is what helped me regain some normalcy. And God actually met me in the dope house. I was in Indianapolis, and I had been up for so many days. And I remember I came down in the kitchen in this mansion, this beautiful mansion that I was in Indianapolis, and God appeared. Not when I say appeared, I didn't see him physically, but his presence was so overwhelming to
Yeah.
me in this dope house. And he said, Dana, choose right now. Choose now. Do you want to live or do you want to die? He gave me an ultimatum, right? And I said, God, I choose you. I choose you. And he said, well, go home. And I went home, and I've been living for Jesus ever since. And it's just been a beautiful journey. It's been difficult at times, but I'm redeemed, I'm set
Yeah.
free, and God has just been good. And so God's allowed me to regain my normalcy. I'm a business owner now, and I'm a podcast host. I'm writing a book. It's just I'm grateful to God for what He's done, and every day is a gift.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's like I get goosebumps. I love that. And, whatever your religious background is, whatever you believe here, what
Yeah,
I encourage you as the listener what I always say is eat the meat, spit out the bones, right? Like if
yeah,
you are not a
absolutely.
believer, but
Mhm.
look at all of the things that Dana went through. And
Mhm.
what I am hearing is, we always think about the what went wrong, like, bankruptcy or my wife left me or I had a stroke or something, but what
Yeah.
you're saying is like the success almost is like what went wrong. Like I couldn't
Mhm.
handle the success
Mhm.
because I thought
Mhm.
I could handle it. And there are
Mhm.
some people on here, listeners that maybe that's where you're at. Maybe you think like, "Oh, like I have all the things and I don't need to be
Yes.
doing and maybe church isn't your thing, but like, even like the habits that got you there, oh, I can just let that slide, right? Like what got you there, you can let slide because I'm good now. I think that
Mm.
complacency is what really goes wrong in a lot of circumstances, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
even if you've arrived somewhere,
Yeah.
humility goes a long way.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
humbling yourself and saying, you know what? Yeah, I do. And I'm not saying you can't be joyful and grateful for where you're at. Absolutely. And it's not the striving of like always wanting better. I think you need to
Right.
be very joyful and grateful for where you are, but
Yeah.
saying, you know what? In one moment, one puff of meth, one, you know, out of line statement or whatever can really change the trajectory of your life. And for
Yeah.
you, for me as a believer, I see the steps like in a bird's eye view because if you are if you are a believer and you're feeling this overwhelming sense of attack is like what we say like spiritual attack, just know
Right.
that you're going in the right direction because
Yes.
in any way, again, whether you're a believer or you just believe in the universe, good, evil, bad, yin yang, if you
Mhm.
are destined for great things,
Mhm.
the opposite side, the opposing side knows that,
Mhm.
and they wanna
That's true.
stop you, and they know your
That's true.
weaknesses, and they know
That's
what's
true.
gonna tempt you, and they know, oh, like, like you said, the ego, like, "Oh, let me how can I do this?" And for
Yeah.
me, it's like I'm an achiever, and I'm an activator, and I hold significance, like, I love to be significant in people's lives, meaning it's really hard for me to just have, like, a happenstance with people, like, I like to make impact, and that's a great
Yeah.
thing. but the enemy can use that to pull me away from my belief system. And so it's
Yeah.
checking yourself. And that's what I'm hearing from your story. And then the
Yeah.
problem is you pair that with shame,
Yeah.
like what
Absolutely.
you do. And
Yeah.
we as human beings,
Absolutely.
we don't like to feel shame. We don't like to feel guilt. We don't know how to handle those emotions sometimes. But
Yeah.
would you say, let me ask you this, would you say that maybe, and again, I'm not, this isn't a therapy session, but we like to go a little bit deep here. Do you think that perhaps going down the rabbit trail of meth and like that type of numbness was maybe trauma you experienced, maybe because you didn't know your dad, or like, you had these experiences
Absolutely.
before?
Absolutely. I attribute to, yeah, I attribute it to everything, the good, bad, and the ugly. And here's the
Right.
thing. And here's one of the premises of my show is I want people to understand that your experience, your life experience, is your platform to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish and to be whatever you want to be. But it's about embracing your entire self,
Yeah.
right? It's the
Yes.
good, bad, and the ugly. And for me, I had to embrace it all and say, yes, I experienced that. Although it was a reality for me, it made me the person that I am today.
Right.
And a lot of times
Yes.
where people are fragmented because, they want to hold true to the good memories and the good
Yes.
experiences through life, but that's not who you are.
Right.
The totality of who you are is everything that you have experienced: the
Yes.
sunshine, the rain, the negative, the
Yep.
positives. All of it makes up of your experience. And so it's important that people understand that, yes, I've experienced this, but it made me strong. There's something
Yes.
about suffering. There's something about dark times, and there's something about just the gosh, the negative things of life. There's positives in it, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it's all a part of the journey. And so, if you're listening right now, if I may say this to your listeners, it's important that you embrace your entire story, because it's your
Yes.
story that allows you to stand up and say, you know what, I survived. And it may not be a meth addiction. Maybe you've gone through it, like a divorce. Maybe you've gone through, like you said
Yes.
earlier, bankruptcy. Maybe, your child has run away. It doesn't matter what it is. You look at the entire story, right?
Right.
And you use the entire story to find success and to find happiness in all of it.
Right. And what I always tell my audience, and when I do a podcast, I always say the things that happen, to you, for you, however you view it,
Hmm.
you have the opportunity to be the victim or the victor, but
Yep.
it's not for you. Like,
Yeah.
it's for other people. So when you
Yes.
can say, like, I went through this, like my mom was sick ever since I was 2. And,
Yeah.
for a lot of years I was like, why is my mom sick? Why can't she do this? I love my mom. I want to do this. I want to, and play that game. But it's
Right.
part of my story, and I get to move forward. And it made me be the mom who I am today. And,
Absolutely.
and God knew that, and he knew he was going to give me with 5 daughters, right? And so I think when we can like separate ourselves a little bit from the story and say, how can I use this story not only for myself, but for other
Hmm.
people to rise up and give hope? And that's why I really started this podcast, because in
Yeah.
whatever you go through, the struggles, the failures, however you view it, it made you who you are today. You want to be able
Yeah.
to withstand all the blessings, all the abundance, all the
Mhm.
struggles and turmoils that you're going to face
Yeah.
without that. And it
Yeah.
is used for your good if you perceive it that way. And so,
Yeah.
I love your perspective on it, because like I said, if you guys are not aware, like meth addiction is one of the hardest addictions to
Yes.
overcome. And
Yes.
so, like,
Yes.
do
Yes.
not take that lightly, but also
Right.
just know, this is just a tip of the iceberg. Like, Dana has an amazing podcast. And so, Dana, how can the audience find you? How can they hear more of your story? And also, like, what is the premise of your podcast so they know what they're tuning into?
Absolutely. So Life Talk Radio can be found on all socials. We're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Life Talk Radio. Life Talk is one word. You can find us there. We're on Apple Music. We're on Spotify. We're on Google for podcasters. Everywhere that there's a social, Instagram, TikTok,
Love it,
you
love
name
it,
it,
love it.
we're there. But again, Life Talk Radio is about exploring the secrets of leadership, personal development, and biblical principles. And under the guise of those three topics, man, we're talking about so many life issues. And because here's the thing, number one, let me just say this for you, Tabitha. This is so cool that you are your podcast. I love it. What went wrong? I love the title. I love the context of it. There's a resurgence right now in the information age with AI
Yes,
and other technology, and so 41% of people are tuning into a podcast once a month. 28% are tuning in at least once a week. So it's a great opportunity right now for podcasters to get as much positive content out there as possible,
yes.
because there's so much going on in the world. There's so much hurt, so much war,
Oh,
and
right.
anything that we can do to tip the scale is awesome. And so I commend you on what you're doing as well. But yeah, we're just, we're trying to take trying to take everyday experiences and provide actionable strategies to people
Mhm.
and add value to their life so they can say, hey, you know what, I do matter and my story
Yes.
does matter.
Yes, yes. Well, I absolutely love that, and yes, that's what we aim here at What Went Wrong. To hear those failures, to feel that connection that I'm not alone, because you're not alone. We're not
Right,
alone in our failures and our struggles, and that there's
right.
hope. There's always hope. There's always that rainbow at the end of the storm. And so, if you're going through a
Yeah,
storm right now, just listen to these stories. That is what's gotten me through so many storms, is hearing those stories. And I hope somebody
sure.
connects with you, Dana, because there could be somebody right now that's struggling with an addiction, and they have all this potential and they have all these dreams, and they think, I'll never achieve them. It's too late. I'm too broken. And
Yeah.
we're here to tell you that you're not. It's just
You're
part of your
not.
story. It's just,
It's a
and
part of the
I've
story.
been saying that, like, I'll go through something and I'll be in tears and I'll almost smile because I'm like, this is just part of my story. This is just,
Yeah,
I'm going to tell this story. This is going to be a great story someday. And
yeah,
just, and I'm not devaluing what you're going through, because if you are going through
exactly.
addiction, it is intense. And seek
Yeah,
help and go, for professional help, and surround yourself with those positive people. But sometimes it
yeah.
takes one person's story. And so
Hmm.
if you want to share this with somebody that you think it would benefit them, even if they're not going through an addiction, but they're just going through a really hard time right now,
Yeah,
connect them with these stories, because we are not alone. And there's, like I said, there's hope and so much positivity that can come from the turmoil if you
yeah,
choose to do it. So I
yeah.
just want to thank you again, Dana, and thank you,
You're
listeners.
so
And
awesome.
remember,
You're so awesome.
yes, wherever you want to go, wherever there is the what went right, there's always the what went wrong. So until
Yeah.
next time, thanks for tuning in.